Pull back. Now I need you to do a 1500 and fly. Go ahead and die, big fella.
This video might surprise some people, especially those who only know me as the guy who's always doing something. Always got a project, always working on a new business, always chasing something. But here's the truth. I got my real estate license when I was 18 years old. And 7 years later, I don't have the sales or the track record you would expect from someone with that much time under their belt. That's not easy to admit, but I believe in telling the truth, especially if that truth can help someone else avoid making the same mistakes I made. When I got licensed, I had just finished my first semester of college. My mom told me,
"Boy, go get your real estate license."
And because I was always a scholar, I didn't question it. At the time, I didn't fully understand what real estate was. I didn't know the depth of what I was stepping into. But I figured, hey, more education? That sounds responsible. I thought it was a good move. And to be fair, it was. But I wasn't ready for what came with it. Not mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. Here's some context. I was still swimming competitively at the time. Something I had done for 11 years. It wasn't just a hobby, it was my identity. I had dreams of going to college on a swim scholarship. Some even said I had Olympic potential. Whether that was true or not, I had invested the time and sacrifice as if it were. Early mornings, relentless practice, strict diets, workouts so brutal that I occasionally still have PTSD from. Sacrifices on top of sacrifices. So to suddenly step into a business like real estate, where grown men and women are trusting you with one of the biggest decisions of their lives, while I was still swimming next to high school kids, there was an obvious disconnect that was hard to ignore. One of my teammates' parents was actually a colleague of mine at the first brokerage I worked with. Imagine trying to build credibility in your industry while still being seen as a kid in the pool. What's crazy about this is that my former colleague's son was much younger at the time, and my colleague had asked me to teach him how to swim better. The kid grew up to be a great swimmer, and now he's in college swimming. Anyhow, I digress. But that's how people saw me as a kid. Even though I was legally an adult, emotionally and socially I was still developing. I had a hard time connecting with peers growing up. I was quiet, an outcast in some ways. Always introspective, always observing, but rarely feeling like I fit in. I didn't fully know myself, so I would adapt and mirror others, hoping I'd be accepted. This was a bad habit that carried into my real estate career, because it got me in trouble, and I found myself mirroring other agents who were doing things unethically. But at the time, I didn't know. I thought it was normal. But all that ever did was push me further away from my authentic self. I wanted people to trust me, but I didn't trust myself yet. I hadn't built that inner foundation. And the people around me noticed. There were older friends, colleagues, even mentors who hinted at it early on. They'd say things like, "You're doing a lot. Be careful to not stress yourself too thin." It's hard for people to trust someone that young with their home. At the time, I thought they were teasing, just joking around. But as the years went by and the traction never came, their warnings made more sense. They weren't being mean, they were being honest. And now with perspective, I get it. I didn't know how to counter that skepticism back then. I didn't have the tools, the experience, or the confidence. And most of all, I didn't have the clarity. When I turned 19, I finally stepped away from swimming. But with that decision came a flood of identity issues. I had spent most of my life being the swimmer, and now that was gone. I was trying to find out who I was outside of the pool, while also trying to juggle college coursework, adjust to the mental demands of adulthood, understand women, navigate lust and temptation, and somehow build a business. I was unraveling inside, but I didn't have the language to explain it. So I buried it, and I became a ticking time bomb. As the pressure persisted, I thought, if I just try harder, if I just grind harder, it will all work out. I was wrong. On top of all this internal turmoil, when I entered real estate, I made the mistake of thinking it was like a job. I thought having a license was all I needed. I figured I'd get plugged into a system, handed some leads, maybe get some training, and boom, deals would start closing. That's not how real estate works. Especially when you're broke, unknown, and young. The brokerage I joined after getting licensed, I'm not going to name them, because this isn't about throwing shade. But looking back, I think there was a major miscommunication between the company and myself. They made some promises that never really materialized, and I felt a little misled at the time. But the truth is, I also came in with a lot of assumptions that weren't fair either. I assumed they were going to train me, step by step, give me leads, hold my hand through the process. Basically treat it like an internship or a 9-to-5, but that's not what they were set up to do. They were running a brokerage, not a mentorship program. On their side, I think they assumed that I already knew I was building a business, that I understood things like marketing, lead generation, and client management, but I didn't. I was fresh out of my first semester of college, barely even understanding what a business was, much less how to run one. So we both walked in with expectations that were never communicated, and when those expectations weren't met, we both walked away a little disappointed. It wasn't personal, it was just unclear. I was doing trial and error with no blueprint. And still, I tried. I cold called, I door knocked, I sent out handwritten letters, I did direct mail campaigns. I watched other agents and mimicked their moves, but I didn't understand the why behind anything. I didn't know what made it all click. And because I was trying to copy others without fully understanding the mechanics of this business, everything fell flat. Here's a part I didn't realize until years later. I never stopped to count the costs. There's a verse in the Bible, Luke chapter 14 verse 28, that says, "But don't begin until you count the costs. For who would begin construction of a building without first calculating the cost to see if there's enough money to finish it?" That was me. I didn't sit down first. I didn't count the costs. I didn't ask, do I have what it takes to finish this? Am I emotionally stable enough? Am I disciplined enough? Do I have the right information, the right mentors, the right expectations? Nope. I just jumped in blind, thinking hustle would carry me, and it did not. But then something shifted a couple years ago. I took those lessons and I applied them to my notary business. My notary business is a business I had also jumped into early on because I was broke and needed some money. And I thought this was also a job that would pay simply because I had the credentials. Hence, I was also struggling at this endeavor at first. But this time, I slowed down. I learned how to position myself, how to build trust, how to follow up, how to actually serve. And you know what? The business came. I started getting calls. I started getting 5-star Google reviews. I started getting referrals because I finally did the work I had avoided before. I counted the costs and I showed up like someone who understood what I was doing. And now I'm taking that same mindset and applying it to real estate the right way. No more delusion, no more ego, no more rushing, no more faking. I failed for 7 years, but failure has been a better teacher than success ever was. Now I know how to pace myself. Now I know how to listen. Now I know how to build something from scratch. And now I actually know who I am. Not the swimmer, not the kid trying to fit in, not the agent faking confidence. Just me, Bryce Hollis, a child of the living God, a man called to build, to serve the people, to provide wisdom as an expert in the field, rather than a salesman simply trying to make a buck. If you're still watching this, I want to say thank you. You may be in your own season of confusion, of transition, of rebuilding. You may feel like you've wasted years, like you're too late or too far behind. I promise you, you're not. God wastes nothing. But you've got to tell the truth about where you went wrong. And you've got to grow from it. Because the doors don't open for who you pretend to be. They open when you're ready. So where does that leave me now? After 7 years of missteps, miscommunication, and just flat out immaturity, I finally understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. I'm not just here to make it in real estate. I'm here to build something rooted in service, in faith, and in truth. And honestly, I know I'm not the only one who's had to grow up in public. Maybe you're watching this and you're in that same space, trying to make sense of your calling, your timing, your purpose, but maybe you're also watching this because you're looking for someone you can trust with something real, like selling your home, buying your first one, or just making sense of the market. And if you ever felt like the process is intimidating, confusing, or just flat out overwhelming, I get it, because I've been overwhelmed too. And that's what qualifies me. Not perfection, but perspective. So if you're in the Cibolo, Schertz, or San Antonio surrounding areas, and you need a realtor who's not just trying to impress you, but actually walk with you, I'm here. I'm not claiming to have all the answers, but I'm finally showing up as someone who's done the internal work, and now I'm ready to do the external work too. If this video resonated with you, or if you're just tired of agents who feel more like salespeople than people, let's have a conversation. No pressure, no gimmicks, just real talk and real service by a real person. Thanks for watching. I'm not claiming to have all the answers, but I'm finally showing up as someone who does. I'm not claiming to have. Oh man, that's going into the bloopers. Okay, this is the fourth take. Action. I'm not claiming to have all the answers. I cannot talk. Okay.